Let's go to Georgia. We'll go to Athens because they're going to have some new faces, whether it be a quarterback, whether it be an offensive coordinator, whether it be a slew of defensive guys that are going to get drafted yet again. We haven't seen a team three-peat in some time. The schedule is favorable. Why wouldn't Georgia repeat or three-peat? Excuse me.
Did you just say favorable?
Oh, it's a cakewalk.
That's from Danny Cannell. That is.
I'm trying to play nice. That's an olive branch.
That's the biggest hall pass you've ever given an SEC team in the history of your life. It's not even a cakewalk. We had a guy call in on a show this morning and say, I think the Georgia schedule is harder than people think just because Georgia's that good. I was like, bro, have you looked at it? The second best team is not on the schedule. The third best team is not on the schedule. And I think A&M might be the fourth best team. They're not on the schedule. So you're talking about outside of Georgia, who's probably the best team. 4 of the top 5 teams are not from the league, are not on the schedule. And then the non-conference is a joke. I mean, UAB's they're changing head coaches with Trent Dilfer coming in. Brent Key's taking over at Georgia Tech. Yeah, UT Martin and somebody else that's not going to have a chance to beat Georgia. It's as light of an SEC schedule as I've seen in a very long time. They just don't feel like there's a lot of scary games. Now, the reason that they wouldn't is you get into either the SEC championship game against an Alabama or an LSU, or you get to the playoff against and I don't know if there are a ton of teams that I look at nationally right now and say, oh, plug them in, they're going to be really good. So somebody's going to have to step up and probably be better than we think they are, Danny, if Georgia's not going to. Because let's be real, could they run the regular season, lose to LSU by a touchdown, and still possibly get in? There'd be a good chance because it's not an automatic USC. It's not an automatic Washington. It's not an automatic Texas or Ohio State or even Michigan right now. I think there's a lot of question marks for a lot of those teams. The reason that they wouldn't play it simple is quarterback. And you can say what you want about Stetson Bennett, where he'll be drafted, how much he'll play in the NFL. He was a damn good college quarterback. Mm-hmm. And he ran it the way they needed him to run it. When they needed plays with his legs, with his arm, he found ways to make them. And even though he didn't throw for 5,000 yards, that goes a long way at any level of football. So to be able, and I just don't know if for the third year in a row, Kirby can have those guys brainwashed to the point that no one thinks they can win a game and they're not going to win their division and they can't beat Alabama or LSU. Can they overcome all that again? Because I think culture was a massive reason they won that title last year. Yes, talented. Yes, good team, great coaching, but culture aided them greatly. Can that culture bleed over again into this year? We don't know. We don't know what the leadership is going to be like and what it's going to allow. But why not Georgia? I would offer up this point as far as like 1,000-foot view of it. There's a ton of really good quarterbacks in college football, and if they catch one of those guys on a team that's hot at that moment, that could be one that sort of keeps them from doing it for the third year in a row.
They almost did last year in the semis.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Absolutely.
But that leads to another question because that happened in the semis. Now, before I get to the question, though, I do want to point out probably the biggest question in Georgia going into next season is, can UGA 11 live up to UGA 10's status? Because UGA 10 won back-to-back titles, the only UGA in history to do that. UGA 11's got a lot of weight on his shoulders. Good luck to him. But
can't you just roll him out there one more year, like for good luck?
I would just prefer you
reference those dogs don't live real long, man.
It's Boom. The new dog is Boom. The old dog was Q. Okay. I don't know. I didn't know this until last year that we had been brainwashed thinking these dogs were named UGA for so long. But some people know that. I didn't know that. And I played against them. Hell, one of them almost bit one of my teammates.
UGA 5, wasn't it?
Well, he had a different name. I don't know what that one was named.
He was Mike, the Auburn player. That was his name. But no, we met, like Bud, you just mentioned, Georgia ran into a hot quarterback in the semi. We talked about the schedule. It's not even a cakewalk. What happens, though, if Georgia loses a regular season game? With that schedule, do you think one loss completely takes them out of the playoff picture? Or do you think that the fact that they've won 2 national titles would keep them in the hunt?
Yeah, it's one of the unfortunate realities of college football, and that is perception goes a long way in this game. Your helmet, your logo, what you have done recently can carry you for a very long time. And sometimes that's good. Most of the time, it's probably not. Because there have been a few times that one of those teams has gotten in, and we may have said, oh, well, that's just because they're this team, and then they go win it. And they look, like take Alabama, Georgia in the SEC championship game a couple of years ago. Oh, well, Georgia's just back in it because of what they've done recently, and they're Georgia, and they're an SEC team. well, then they look pretty convincing and going on to win a national championship. But I would say, unfortunately, unless it's a 40-point blowout to a sub-500 team, I think they have a great chance of still getting in if they lose a game in the regular season because of just where Georgia is perceived to be right now by so many people. And that's hard as a human being to get that out of your brain and selectively start over every year. Not many people can do that. Not many people can make themselves at the beginning of a football season say, clean slate, don't care what happened, don't care who's back. I just want to watch the games and then make a decision of who I think is better than the other team. That rarely happens.
Follow up to that. If Georgia does not win the SEC title game, should they be in the playoff given their schedule?
Some of that is dependent on what everybody else has done. How many other teams are truly deserving? Are we weighing them against 2 lost teams from conferences that don't have a lot of great teams in their league? So some of that's dependent, Bud. And listen, I'm not saying it should never happen. I hate a team losing and then getting in. Like I don't love it. I know sometimes it has to happen. It probably should happen because it still should be body of work. Last year, for some reason, I felt like we heard more what this team is now, what this team is today, what this team's hot now. Well, why the hell do we play the first 5 or 6 games of the season? Like just start at week 8 and then see who's the hottest team is. I do think your body of work should still count. There are injuries. There are different guys that show up and play better or play worse. A lot of different things can happen. There can be bad matchups in a certain week, but I'm a fan of the body of work should still count. What you did early, what you did the middle of the season, what you did late should all play a part in whether or not you get into the playoff.